about, and you brought this around, we've talked a little bit about our background with mental illness and how we deal with it, but now let's get into the intersection of of mental illness and creative work. I hear a lot of people, when they discuss mental illness and receiving treatment for it, express the fear that receiving treatment for their mental illness will somehow hamstring their attempts to be creative.
For me, it's not so much the removal of the depression that would be a problem. That would be spectacular. I know that I would be totally creative because I do much better when I'm not feeling sad. You know, I don't need that to be creative. I'm pretty clear on that. It's the freaking medication.
Yeah.
It's the brain fog. It's the pain. It's all of the other stuff. You know, I need my brain to write, and even if it's not working quite right because I know I'm somewhat depressed, that might still be a better intellectual state for writing than if I were taking a medication that made me totally, you know, emotionally numb, but also kind of intellectually wiped out. That you know, I was thinking well enough to work at my average white-collar job, but not really well enough to, you know, kind of dig in there and do the really good work that I need to do as a writer. You know.
It seems to me that there's a certain amount of there's a cost-benefit analysis that needs to occur, because depression at a certain level prevents you from getting any work done, right?
Yeah, it's like if you have that moment where you suddenly remember your mom's death in graphic detail, and you know, that's like an instant spoon removal wherever you are. It's like all your spoons gone for that hour, 2 hours, or that day, or that week,
right?
Depending on how long it lasts, you know.
So let me ask you this, and this might be, I don't know how you're going to react to this, but let's, for the sake of argument, entertain the idea that treatment might prevent you from getting good work done. I don't necessarily believe that that's true, but which personally is more important to you? The ability to produce good work, or the ability to be genuinely and consistently healthier mentally?
For me, it's the work, but I don't have a family. I mean, aside from Gary, but I don't have kids, as I do. I don't have anybody counting on me for anything else. I mean, if I had kids, my answer might very well be very different. But I don't have kids. I don't have relatives. For me, the purpose of me being on this earth, I think, is to produce the work. So that's what I have to ultimately be concerned with. You know. So
that was a big shift for me, and a lot of what pushed me towards starting to acknowledge the stuff that I buried or self-medicated on for decades. You know, I was the birth of my kids, like at a very young age, 3, and it was this kind of realization, like if things were up to me, you know, I could live, you know, live well below the poverty line. I could just not worry about what kind of work I was doing, as long as I was getting food in me every day. I had a roof over my head, as long as I could write it, it mattered, you know. And suddenly everything shifts, because then this even comes into it with suicidal ideations. Like, you know, I think there's some chance that becoming a father saved me from removing myself in, you know, and but the thing is, like, those demands suddenly appear, but you don't suddenly get new resources to deal with them, you know, and that's really what's so baffling and hard. It's like suddenly I have to do all this, you know, or else I'm ruining these other beautiful little human beings' lives if I don't get myself all right. But I don't have anything new to make myself all right. You know, they didn't come with, like, you know, bonus prescriptions or anything. So it's yeah, I think that the answer to your question, to get back on track, has shifted for me. But it's also like, I think it's sort of like, would you rather lose your sense of hearing or your sight kind of?
Sure, yeah, it's almost an arbitrary question.
You really can't prioritize, but I think it does become, like you're saying, a pragmatic cost benefits analysis. I've been cycling through a number of different drugs over the past year, and nothing has worked so far. I've been much more intermittent in my care than I should be, because it's very easy to get frustrated with what's the pattern and just, doing these horrible things to my body that I was doing that I thought was making me feel better. I'll just keep doing that, and it's very easy to go on that track. But it was funny when I started talking with my editor, Betsy Wolf, on the dog. Just wanted to go, that's good. Acquainted editor and everything, and she and I are pretty close personally, and she and I started talking about kind of my treatment and my seeking treatment, and it was fascinating because she instantly had a list of all these writers she's worked with over the past whatever couple decades, and which drug. I mean, not that she disclosed all of this to me, but that different drugs have different effects on one's productivity, and and so it was really interesting to talk to her at that intersection and say, like, well, I'm thinking about this drug, which that Shrink was talking about, and her saying, yeah, well, I had a writer that went on that drug and they didn't write anything for 3 years, or say, well, I'm thinking about starting to take Flexo. Oh yeah, well, I know somebody who's and actually I got them writing every day. They were, so it is this cost benefits analysis that's very specific to individuals, and I think
yes,
you have to start running those programs and those calculations.
Well, and medication is specific to individuals. I was very, very fortunate with that. We fairly quickly found the medication that seemed to work. We had upped the dosage a couple of times. Again, thank you, Amy pointed out, Jim, you need to call your doctor back and ask them to bump you from 50 to 100 milligrams because you're turning into that guy again. I am not out. And I'm writing more. Which is probably not smart, but I'm continuing to try and work on the main contracted novels, but I'm starting to do things like, okay, not only will I write during my lunch break, but they give me a 15-minute break in the afternoon. I can get at least 200 words done then. Let's try and write a different book. Because it would be so cool a year from now to say, oh yeah, I wrote that in my 15-minute break. They're not an asshole.
You didn't say there would be 200 good words.
No, they're definitely not all good words. This is very much first draft. It's okay to write draft mode. But for me, if I had to make that decision, if you put me on the spot and said I had to answer, then I would say I need to go hang out in the green room for a while. Because I've got the kid, I've got to be there for them. And yet, this is also an important part of me, both for me personally, and it is a very significant part of our income. So from a practical standpoint, the writing pays as much as the day job. I can't stop.
I think that's been the hardest thing. Lucy was talking about sort of like in the writer world, we are a little bit more comfortable discussing this, and you don't feel like quite such a freak, like what's wrong with me. There's more openness to that. But that's kind of in our communities, right? But then there's the kind of pragmatic day jobbery stuff that is part of the writing thing, and it's I mean I've found myself like unable, just for weeks at a time, unable to do a simple fucking thing like fill out this contract, scan it, send it off, get the check in the mail, and go put it in the damn ATM. And I like when I get into the real depths of things, like I can't, and I'm sitting there needing the money, but I can't get that paperwork done, or I can't answer that crucial email that really just means I need to write a long half-hour email and send it off, and then good things will happen. But when you don't have any students that day, you use them up already, or that week or that month, that's been what's really been maddening to me, is that the creative side and the kind of social and community side of things has been less impacted than all of the minutiae that go into like writing professionally, and the fact that stuff is going to fall by the wayside just as easily as any other day job.
This is something that I wanted to bring up actually during the panel, and I'm really glad that you did. I've experienced with my depression and my anxiety, just phobic behavior that sabotages my interpersonal and professional attempts at success. Have you guys experienced that same phenomenon where